Jai Janendra. In this last class of this lecture, this course, we shall consider or try to study the interactions between the various components of the living system. The living system, in fact, is very complicated. As you know, how many types of karmas are there. Then if you look at the body, how many organs we have. We have various parts of the body and the subparts and so on. So altogether, it makes a very complicated system. So if we had to study the interactions, we need to modify this system in order that we can understand, we can draw a simplified picture and try to make out how the interactions are taking place and what are the interrelations between the various components of the system. So we'll make an attempt here to draw an interaction model. A model in principle is a simplified representation of a system. Model helps to understand the interrelationship between the components and the working of the system. A living organism is a complex system, as I just now told you. Its simplified model gives us some insight into the interactions and interrelations between the complex components. What are the components of a living system? Broadly speaking, these are: number 1, soul; number 2, Karman body; number 3, Tejas body; number 4, mind; and number 5, body. So these 5 are the major components of a living system. To have a glimpse how the system works, consider a simple case of hunger. This is just to appreciate, that how the system works. Who feels hungry? The body or the soul? Obviously, body, which is a material entity, has no feeling, as we know. So the soul has the feeling of hunger, or the soul feels hungry. The asata vedani. Now, how I'm just going to describe to you how this particular process takes place. So the asata vedani karma arises when the body is weak or lacks energy, because the body has transformed to this particular state. On the rise of this karma, the soul feels hungry. Okay, so it is the effect of asata vedani karma that the soul feels hungry and initiate actions to mitigate the hunger. So soul takes measures, how to mitigate this kind of feeling of hunger. This action is successful when simultaneously there is a kshayopsam of bhogantaraya karma. So many of the karmas are working simultaneously in this system. So besides the rise of asata vedaniya karma, there has to be a kshayopsam of bhogantaraya karma. So there is no obstruction in the soul's activity. The rise of vedaniya karma and also the nam karma causes movement in the bodily parts which are engaged or connected with the act of eating. So now there is some movement, in the body because of these karmas, and the body, then tries to manage, how to fulfill the feeling, or how to meet the feeling of the soul. Kshayopsam of Bhogantaraya karma sends a message to brain through mind, and the brain regulates the eating process. So there is no obstruction now of the soul activity because of the Kshayopsam of Bhogantaraya karma. So a message is sent through the mind to the brain and to regulate the eating process. So what happens when the mind is active? The body first searches for food. That's number one part, and then eats. Okay. So these activities are now taking place in the body. Once the food is consumed, brain sends a message to mind communicating the current position or current state of the stomach. So when the stomach is full, a message again is sent by the brain, because the brain knows when this happens, and it sends a message to the soul through the system. The soul receives this information and the feeling of hunger goes away. The soul was having this feeling. So once the body has consumed food, the feeling of hunger in the soul goes away. So this is a very simplified picture of the whole process and how interdependent the system components are. We can see that the soul feels hungry, the body consumes food, and the soul is satisfied. Now look here how the system works. So thus the soul and body are interrelated, and their actions are mutually dependent, as we can see by this example. Now we want to construct a model of the living system. The first step in constructing the model is to represent the components in a simplified way, because the components themselves are complicated. So we have to have a simplified picture before we can construct a model. Number one, soul is the first component. The impure soul is divided in three parts. In our case, in our model, the pure soul, the bhav karma, and bhav mind. And the later two, as we know, are impurities of the soul. Bhav karma is again divided in two parts: biological bhav karma and psychical bhav karma. So this is the simplification of the soul. The next is karman body. Karman body contains how many karmas? 148 subtypes, as we described. In fact, the soul bonds only 120 out of this 148, and only 122 of these 148 gets rise. And this you can appreciate if you look at the list of Nam Karma, and I did discuss about this point in one of the classes. So the Karman body, here for the purpose of constructing a model, is divided in two parts: biological Dravya Karma and psychical Dravya Karma. Only two parts. Then Tejas body, it is considered as one unit. No division in the Tejas body. Gross body, it has several divisions, but for our purpose, we will divide it in two parts: the brain and the rest of the body. Then mind. Mind is a very powerful component of our existence, of the whole system. It has immense powers. The first, the bhav mind. So we divide the bhav mind in three parts. Okay, one, what we call as a conscious mind, and this, to my mind, it contains memories of this life which we are conscious of. So this is what we can define as a conscious mind. Then a subconscious mind. This mind contains memories of this life which we are not immediately conscious of. We don't remember everything, which we have sensed or seen or we thought of another way, that is, which have been stored as a Shrutagyan memories. So many of them we don't remember. So that part of the memories which we are not immediately conscious of can be considered as subconscious mind. Then unconscious mind. This mind contains memories of past lives which were in a Sangi mode. Sangi mode, you understand, that those modes which had mind. So the memories of only those lives are being stored in the Bhava mind, and the memories of such memories of the past lives constitute what we call as, or we can define as, unconscious mind. The above division holds good for waking state, okay. In the sleep and the dream state, conscious mind also acts as a subconscious mind, We are not conscious of many things, of our memories and so on. In fact, we are not conscious of the external objects and many things. So even those conscious mind, that conscious mind more or less acts as a subconscious mind. Memories of both the subconscious mind and unconscious mind are accessed in the dream state, So the memories are being accessed. So in that limited sense, you are conscious. The cognition and thinking activity of Bhava mind is due to working Jnanavarani and Darshanavarani karma. The cognition is made by Bhava mind, the thinking is done by the Bhava mind, and this is due to working Jnanavarani and Darshanavarani karma, So because of that, or the kshaya of some of these two karmas, there is a power of the soul, which is being manifested, and that manifested power of the soul is responsible for cognition and thinking activity. Willing and feeling by bhav karma is due to working mohani karma. So the mohani karma is either, you have a ksayopsam or upsham or a rise or all these kinds of operations on the mohani karma, and this gives rise to the willing, the desires, expectations and so on, and our feelings. So this is about the bhav mind. Then about the dravya mind. Dravya mind is the working place for our mental activity. It acts in two ways, In the forward mode, it receives information from soul and acts on the brain. So this is the forward movement of information, The information flows from soul to brain. And in the reverse mode, it receives information from senses through brain and communicates it to the soul, So this is, the reverse also happens, and this is how it happens. We must distinguish between the karma process and the simple mental process, This must be understood very clearly. In the former, the activities are associated with some kind of patience and the soul binds karma. So this is the karmic process. Okay? And in the later, that is in the mental process, the activities are not associated with patience and there is no bonding of karma. Although both can happen, the bonding can take place or bonding cannot take place. Both may happen in the mental activity, but here we are considering those activities where no karma is being bound. In both cases, information of the activity is recorded as memory in the bhav karma. That is, whether the karmas are being bound or they are not being bound, in both cases the memory of the activity is recorded as bhav karma. Sorry, it is bhav mind, I'm sorry. For instance, when you are reading a book, a passion may or may not arise. Okay, both, it can happen either way, whether you have patience or you don't have patience when you are reading a book. But when no passions arise, okay, then the act is not recorded as karma, because this activity is not accompanied by patience, so therefore the karma is not recorded. That is, the anubhag bandh and the sthiti bandh are not recorded. The memory is recorded in the bhav mind. So although there is no karma bonding, the memory is recorded in the bhav mind. This is just an example. So there are many instances like this in our life where we don't bind karma, but we do record the memory. In the forward mode, Dravya mind receives the following information from the soul. What kind of information Dravya mind receives? Number one, working conscious memory. Okay, or those memories of which we are conscious of, from bhav mind. It is assumed that Dravya mind does not store memory, it is only a working place. This is my assumption, that the memories are stored only in bhav mind and not in the Dravya mind. Although it has a working memory, because it has to act as an interface. So it does have working memory, but it does not store memory. And number two, the working psychical karma, which may be due to upasam, ksayopsam or rise of these karmas, So the working psychical karmas, that information is also going to the Dravya mind. The working of antaraya karma influences the activities of body, speech through Dravya mind. So antaraya karma is very important. It allows or does not allow the activities. So it influences the activity of body and speech through Dravya mind. The following figure shows the mind processes. So we now try to represent what happens in the mind. On the left hand side, I have shown the bhav mind in three divisions, as I described earlier: conscious mind, subconscious mind, and the unconscious mind. Okay, so this is how this is conscious mind, subconscious mind, and unconscious mind. The three divisions, and these two, the subconscious mind and unconscious mind, these they influence leshya through mohani karma, So the memories also have an effect on leshya. Then on the right hand side, I have shown here how the information flows to Dravya mind. So this is Dravya mind. Okay. So Dravya mind receives working conscious memories. This is conscious mind. Okay, this part. So the working conscious memories are being received by Dravya mind. Then, so we are talking of the Dravya mind, and it receives information for working psychical karma. What are the working psychical karmas? Jnanavarani karma, J, you see the J written in the yellow box, J. Then you have D, Darshanavani karma, then you have M, which is Mohani karma, and last at the bottom, A, Antaraya karma. So all these four karmas, depending upon their state, that information is flowing to Dravya mind. Okay, so I have shown here both Bhav mind and Dravya mind, and their operations. Now, besides this information flow in the system, there are other forces which are acting, and we recollect these forces. One is prana, okay, and we know there are 6 pranas. There are 5 sense pranas and 1 mind. So these 6 are being, they get their origin from psychical karma, on kshayasam of mati jnana of scoring karma, and antaraya karma. Then there are 3 pranas, swachoswas, sarir prana and vachalban prana, and they exist due to the rise of nam karma, and ayus prana is due to the rise of ayus karma. So the forces of prana is acting in the body. Then the second one is leshya. You know, there are 6 leshyas, and these leshyas are also interacting with endocrine gland system, particularly 2 glands, pituitary and hypothalamus, which are master glands located in the brain. So, and we know that how the leshyas are produced. They are due to the rise of Kashaya Mohani karma and the rise of Nam karma. So there are 5 of the leshyas which are due to the rise of Kashaya Mohani karma, and 1 due to the rise of Nam karma. So this is how the leshyas are creating forces acting in the body. Then we also have biophotons, we discussed that. And these are supposed to exist due to nam karma. So due to the some subdivision of nam karma, not all the nam karmas, one particular subdivision or maybe more subdivisions of nam karma are producing biophotons. We actually do not know what subdivision of nam karma is producing biophotons. We can only make a guess. And you find that all these forces, they originate in karma. So the karma is the main unit, which provides the forces acting in the gross body and which causes the working of the gross body. So with this information, we now construct a model. Here is the model of the living system. So on the left hand side, the soul is represented, and the soul divided, the impurities of the soul rather, divided in 3 parts: bhav man, bhav psychical karmas, and bhav biological karmas. Okay. Then the next unit is Karman body. So the Karman body, which is physical, again divided in 2 parts, the Dravya psychical karma and the Dravya biological karma. The red one is Dravya psychical karma, and the blue one at the underneath is Dravya biological karma. The next unit shown in yellow is Tejas body, and it's considered as one unit. The last one, or there is intermediate another unit, Dravya mind, shown in the blue on the upper part of the diagram. Then the last unit is the gross body, and the gross body again is divided in 2 parts. One brain, on the top, and the rest of the body. Then we show how the information flows and the interaction takes place among these various units. So the first thing, starting from left, I have shown that there is an exchange of information between bhav cyclical karma and dravya cyclical karma. Okay, it's a continuous exchange of information. Similarly, there is a continuous exchange of information between bhav biological karma and dravya biological karma. There's a continuous exchange of information. That is how we know that the karman body gets associated with the soul. Then all other forces originate in the karman body. Okay, so starting from bottom, the red line you see is biophotons. The biophotons gets their origin or have their origin in nam karma, which is a part of dravya karma, biological karma. So you have a biophotons emitted, as I told you in the last class or one of the class, originate in the nam karma, and they interact with the cells of the body, so biophoton. So that interaction is shown by a red line at the bottom. Then proceeding upward, we have another line shown the prana 4. So these 4 pranas originate in the biological karma. Okay, nam karma and ayush karma, and these karmas interact with the tejas body and produce pranas, which are 4 in number, and these pranas are interacting with the gross body in the manner which we described in the earlier classes. So these 4 pranas. Then going up, I have shown leshya. The leshyas are being produced, as we know, by mohani karma and nam karma. So these 2 streams of leshya, making one and interacting with the tejas body, and then the tejas body gives rise to the dravya leshya, and these leshyas shown in yellow line. You'll find that yellow line coming from the tejas body, going up and interacting with the endocrine glands in the brain. So this yellow line shows the action of leshya, interaction of leshya coming from tejas body and interacting with pituitary or hypothalamus in the brain. Then going up again, I have shown here the mind, the dravya mind. So dravya mind, you see how the interactions take place. There is one shown by dotted line at the top. As there is a continuous exchange of information between bhav mind and dravya mind. Okay, and this is how, in fact, dravya mind is supported in its place in the body because of the continuous exchange. Just like the karman body is associated with the soul because of continuous exchange of information, the same way the dravya mind is also associated with the bhav mind because of continuous exchange of information between the bhav mind and the dravya mind. Because our mind is always acting, there hardly you find any time where your mind is silent. It is working all the time. There are, of course, cases, as we discussed earlier, meditation and so on, when the mind is silenced, but ordinarily the mind is active. Then I have shown a coupled system written at the top and a envelope drawn around the dravya mind and the brain. So the dravya mind and the brain are coupled system. Okay, they work together. And there is a flow of information from dravya mind to brain and vice versa. Okay, that information, the top line there shows that. Then I also shown a yellow dotted line in between, and this shows that the lashas which are otherwise independent of mind, these lashas do influence our mind. So there is flow of information from brain to Dravya mind because of lashya. You see the yellow dotted line. So this represents that the lashyas do influence the Dravya mind or the mind. So mind is influenced by lashya, but the other way around does not take place. The mind does not influence lashya, but the lashyas influence mind. It's that way. Okay, so this is how I have shown the interaction here. You see, this is a very simplified picture of the living system, but even in that case, we find that so many interrelations and so many interactions between the various components. This is a very, very simple model which we have produced, but if you want to go into the details of interactions, you might consider the particular kind of karma, you might consider particular part of the body and so on, and try to draw a interaction system. This is possible. So you are free to develop any kind of subsystem, depending upon what you want to study. So this is possible. I am not going to go into those details. I simply explain to you the method of making a model. So what are the important points regarding our model? Number one, Dravya mind DM is interface between soul and body, is coupled with the brain and senses. Okay, so this is very important. The Dravya mind is coupled to brain, and through the brain the Dravya mind is connected to senses. There is two-way communication between soul and mind DM, between mind DM and brain, and between mind DM and the Karman body. So mind DM is connected to soul, mind DM is connected to brain, and it is connected to Karman body. In all three cases, there is a two-way communication. Similarly, there is two-way communication between the brain and the senses. Okay, so brain sends signal to senses and senses send signals to brain, and between mind DM and senses through brain. That also is two-way communication. Mind controls senses and senses affects the working of mind. Karman Vargana emitted by Karman body interacts with the Tejas body, and the resulting Lashya waves interact with endocrine glands in the brain, as I told you earlier. The two specific features of this model are, and this is very important. Number one, Karman body and mind DM are two independent interfaces between soul and body. Okay, how the soul and body are connected? One connection is made through Karman body, and another connection is made through mind DM, and both connections are important. Though most functions of mind DM are influenced by karma, as we know, it can independently exchange information with bhav mind. Okay, so Dravya mind has this capability that it can independently exchange information with the bhav mind and therefore with the soul. This is the power of mind. This feature enables the bhav mind to store memories of all activities because of this feature. Okay, so this is one thing, that there are two independent interfaces. Many people are not very clear about this, they think only of karmic process. and do not think of the mind process. But both are important and both can act independently between the soul and body. Then Leshyas. Number 2, Leshyas representing our bhav, emitting from Karman body, interact with the grace body, independent of mind. So action of Leshya is not controlled by mind, and as I told you in the while explaining that model diagram, so Leshyas have very prominent role in our personality. They are not influenced by mind. At the same time, they control the working of body and also control mind, because of the reverse flow of information. How exactly the interactions takes place in the body? Okay, we know that interactions take place, but how exactly this takes place? Remember that the soul pradesha and the Karman body extend at every point of the gross body. Okay, and so do the prana, leshya and dravya mind, because the Karman body extends the entire body space, and we know that the prana also do the same way, leshya and dravya mind. These three units also extend the entire space of the gross body. Remember that. It means that these components are present on every cell space as shown in the figure. So I am giving a small figure here showing that all these units, the Karman body, the pranas, the leshyas and the dravya mind, they are present on every cell of the body. Okay, so these four I have shown outside the cell just for the purpose of explanation, but these four extend the space of the cell and every cell. So like a carbon, karmas, these three also, the pranas, the leshya and the mind also extend the entire body. Although the four kinds of pudgalas are present on every cell space, their interaction with the cell is supposed to be taking place selectively, just like the genes which are same in every cell but act selectively to produce different kinds of proteins in different organs of the body. This is a very significant analogy which I am drawing here. That look here, the genes are have a selective action. The same kinds of genes are present as you have learnt in the biology class. They are present all over, all the cells, but the different cells at different locations produce different kinds of proteins. So because their actions are selective. Same way, what we are assuming that, although the pranas, the leshyas and the mind, they are present on all the cells of the body, but their action is also selective. So in the case of prana, what is happening is that the ayus prana and the sharir prana interact with all the body cells, producing cell bioelectricity and muscle bioelectricity. So these pranas, the ayus prana and the cerebral prana are interacting with all the cells of the body. But what about the other pranas? The Swachosas prana interacts with the heart cells, producing heart electricity. Although this prana is also present in all the cells, but it is interacting only with the heart cells to produce the heart electricity. And the Vachanbal prana, is present in all the cells, but is interacting only with certain parts of the brain to produce, the speech or the bhasha. And then the Indriya prana, which are 5, interact with the brain cells, producing brain electricity. So all the indriya pranas are also present all over the body. They interact only in the brain, okay, and produce the brain electricity. And the Manah prana provides coupling between mind, DM and the brain. So you appreciate how selective action takes place in the body. Then Lishyas are present all over the body, as I told you earlier, but they interact only with the endocrine glands in the brain, the pituitary and the hypothalamus. So again here the action is selective. The mind DM is a kind of field, and it's present all over the body. But then this field interacts selectively only with the neuron cells in the brain and other cells of the nervous system. So the mind DM is interacting only with brain and the nervous system. So you must appreciate this kinds of how the interaction takes place. So just like the information in a carbon body, the information in the mind DM must also be non-local. Now I must explain this point. The information in the carbon body is non-local. What does it mean? It means that the same information is present on every pradesha of the carbon body or every pradesha of the soul. So same information. It's a non-local. If it were local, then it would confine to only one particular location or place. But this is not so. Similarly, the information in the mind DM is also non-local because the mind DM is present all over the body. The information exists in every pradesha of the cell, but its interaction takes place only in the brain. So the mind DM also has a non-local information that way. Okay. So all karmas and the 142 subtypes, and I have written in the bracket 122. Out of 148, only 122 gets rise. And you can figure it out. Though extend the whole body, interact in a selective way, and how exactly this happens is a matter of research. I explained to you in a very simple cases how the selective interaction takes place. But if you now go into all the karmas which are present, okay, and 122 is rising, and how these 122 are interacting with the body cells is a matter of research. This is a it would require a very, very detailed kind of study. So, in conclusion, or at the end of this lecture, I have drawn here a simple picture to explain the anomaly between the Jain philosophical view and scientific view. Look here, I have shown here in the red the karmic forces which are acting, then the genetic science, blue at the bottom, and the scientists consider that this genetic science is due to the property of matter. So they study only the material properties and then the genetic properties, and see that this only all the laws of nature and the properties of matter should be able to define the genetic properties or genetic science. But this is not so as far as the Jain philosophy is concerned. No, there are karmic forces acting on the cells, okay, as we discussed here. So without the karmic forces, the genes will not act the way they are doing. But the science regards that, look here, it is only the material properties. They don't have to consider anything else, say for example karmic forces. So this is a kind of a misconception the scientists are having. So the scientific view that genetics is a property of matter only is incomplete. According to Jainism, genetic science is defined by properties of matter and the karmic forces both. So, genetic science needs to be revised to take into account the karmic forces which exist in all the worldly souls. So, this would make Jainism a part of biological science if this is accepted. So, I have in this lecture presented a very simple model of a living system and how the model works, And as I said, if you want to go into the details or if you want to have a detailed study, you can make or develop a model of a sub-part of the system and study the interactions and the interrelationship. Thank you.